Hey everyone, it's Joe Lyons here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and Jackie here from Copenhagen, Denmark.
And welcome to our 40th AutoHotkey webinar. As we mentioned last time, we're kind of taking requests at this point of, if you have something you're trying to work on and want some help or just want to, brag about something you've written, right? Let us know ahead of time and we'll plan to review it. So let's I didn't really put a deck together for that reason, because now it's just kind of, flying at the seat of our pants. We had a fair amount of people registered. Most of look, we mute you all at the beginning. You can unmute yourself if you want to talk, but if we all did that, it would be mayhem. So you can use the chat. It's great to communicate with us. Or unmute yourself or say you have a question in the chat, and then we'll unmute you if you want to talk, and that's fine too. So that's where we are there. Here's a list of some of the last podcasts Jackie and I did. There were a couple interesting ones we were talking a lot about this book of systems. And so this one has systems so ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and also have expert systems, not expert employees. So the two are very related.
Yeah, and I at least ramble a lot on one of them. So, yeah.
No, I think that's actually the one after. Because I don't know, whatever. There was one where we got a little out there, but yeah, it still was all related. And of course, we have Udemy courses if you're interested in taking a Udemy course on AutoHotkey. And that's basically it. This was I didn't swap it out. I've just been busy working on rentals. So this was from last time. I was thinking, actually, so let me demonstrate it, and I'll try to find the actual syntax. But it popped in my head of like, oh, this one I could share. So let's say I was going to do some web scraping. Let's use the forum as an example. And so let's say there's like a drop down, right? Now this is a menu that I've written. It's not John's quick access pop-up, which I would have preferred, but I have written this years ago, so I just left it in there. So HK launch, and this rip web form options. Now what you're going to see here, this is HTML. It's just a template so I could see, I can hit run, but I wanted to remind myself of what goes in here. So now I'm also, I should have done this in IE. It's not IE, is it? I can't even tell anymore. Let me open up IE and go back to the forum. And then so let's say I was going to work on a new page and I wanted to see like the options that were available. So see this text here? This isn't a good one though. Is there an advanced? Yeah, I think that's what we want. And then I think maybe I do it on no. Well, we'll try that one. So I'll take this and copy it and paste it into here and then run it. Oh, and there's just the one. Let me try going to, let's try Amazon. But there's not like a good drop down with a lot of options. Oh, maybe here. There. Oh, I saw one. Where'd it go? There we go. Try that one. Now I think that's a one-time. Let me reload that script. Paste it and run it. Oh, unfortunately, you did it slightly different than the normal way. That's a bummer. Well, you know what I'll do? Let me just reload it. You get the idea where I'm grabbing the HTML from. So let me reload this, and you'll get an idea of how I use it. So I would have dumped it in here. When I hit run, it shows me, right, the key and the value pairs, right? So sometimes when you're trying to do web scraping and you want to pre-select a given value, then you have to go look at that HTML and figure out which one is design network, right? When you're reading that, I don't like reading HTML like that. So this allows me to just run it here and go, oh, these are my options and these are the numbers, right? So then I can say in my little loop file, I can say, oh, choose this one first, choose this one next, choose whatever, right? But this was a little tool that I wrote with the help from people from the forum. Actually, Tank and Jackie both, I remember when I did this is a long time ago when I was working at TI, helped on. But it was a tool to help me write my code. There was no end here in it. It was to help me write code faster. and that was my whole goal of writing the thing. So hopefully that makes sense. Web
Yeah,
scraping is awesome.
yeah, and to me, it's one of the things that you showed here, with them making a dropdown that actually has spans as the elements,
Mm-hmm.
is, I'm not sure if it's sad or whatever it is, but it is still something that we see more and more in the way that you build web pages, is that because of JavaScript, JSON, all of those different parts, jQuery, and all of the other web design tools that you have available today on the internet,
Yeah.
makes it so that you can build a dropdown with almost any kind of HTML element. So some of those maybe a bit dated stuff, like the old select, which was the way of doing dropdowns, and the way that HTML is made. That element is made for dropdowns, but instead of trying to style on the HTML select object,
Mm-hmm.
they've chosen to build an entirely different drop-down menu from other HTML objects.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do that just fine because of CSS and, again, as I said, other JavaScript coding libraries. But it is a bit sad, kind of, that the stuff that was made for dropdowns ain't being used for dropdowns.
Yeah.
Just because, hey, if you wanted to select a specific value in a dropdown, you would have a great way of doing it by saying select index
Yeah.
and number.
Right.
Whereas now you actually need to find the value and
Yeah.
how many spans down is this? Does it have an ID? Does it have a name?
Right.
Do I need to look for values and then get it from there and fire some kind of mouse event on that element and stuff? Weird stuff that you need to do to handle the way that designers are making web pages now. It's just, it could be much easier, but hey, that's how it is.
So this was, by the way, the which you guys probably all saw. That was that drop down. These are the options. So I found one, but yeah, I agree. Web scraping is not somewhere I would start with AutoHotkey. Let me close out of some of my other stuff. By the way, so I one of the things, and I just want to talk to. I don't want to show it, but one of the tools that I'm paying Maestria to work on for us. I have a company where we're having people in the Philippines call people here in the U.S. and we have, like, let's say up to 12 phone numbers for a given person, right? And then each property has multiple people that own them. And so we were trying to have software say, call, rank order the numbers, call this one first. If it's not the right person, try the next one for that person, and keep going until you find a phone number for that person. If you don't find the right one, say if there's another homeowner for it, switch to that one, keep calling them. And then if you don't reach either of those, then start calling their friends and family or neighbors. Not neighbors, not associates. And we looked at a lot of tools and for call center stuff, and no one had like the capability that we wanted. And then also the tools we were using for actually doing the calling sucked. They were really bad quality. So Maestrith has been busy. He's written a tool now that it uses an API to connect to a soft phone running on the computer and dials out, keeps track of who they're calling and when, puts in dispositions if it's the wrong number, if they don't want to talk to us, and whatever, all this stuff. And I'd say it was like probably a week's worth of work. And we have this now personalized custom software for doing these amazing calls. And maybe at some point I'll give a demo of it, but I was just really cool to have the ability to say, oh, well, we can't find what we want. Screw it. We'll just build our own. Right. And it's working out really well.
And I think that's going to penetrate deep into everyday work generally. The ability to get custom stuff done within reasonable time, and so yeah, I think we will see more of stuff like that as well, Joe.
Yeah.
Where a company or a group of people, an entrepreneur or whatever, would simply reach out, also because of the globalization, where you'd be able to maybe get some custom code made or custom program made specifically for your needs within an economical reachable level. Whereas here in Denmark 10 years ago, you'd need maybe millions to get something useful developed, right? Where, yeah.
Well, that was the other thing. The software, the tools that we were looking at, the cost, it was like $180 to $190 per user per month, right? And some of them had like a minimum of 3 users. So we were looking at paying, let's say, like around $500 easily per month to, use. Now, we still have fees associated because we couldn't find the calling for free, but it's drastically cheaper, to have paid at one time and have something custom built than to use software that honestly just isn't. I mean, they were really bad, the ones when we looked at a lot of them. Yeah, it was interesting. Mordecai was asking what we're covering today, and we were alluding to earlier. Since we're kind of out of ideas, we're looking for people who are stuck on things or want to share stuff they've worked on. Dale, who's not here, he wrote. Let me bring up the message. Let me close. Go ahead and close this. And he had a script that he was having some trouble with, and so we were going to let me break this so we can see the whole thing.
I love that you said that we were out of ideas. I think one of the things that you could point at there is we're probably not out of ideas, but we had sort of hard time of not just repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, we could do that, but then we would just cover almost the same thing as webinar 12. Oh, but we can do this. Oh, but we already covered that in webinar 8 and 17. And so, yeah, now we're more.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we did 2 on web scraping, right? I think we could probably do a second one on APIs because there's a lot more. And actually, I was going to write you, but I realized after one of your comments to me, you already knew it. But the XHR, I didn't realize that was the name for it. But the XML HTTP request thing, the short abbreviation is XHR, which after I saw somewhere you had actually mentioned it, I'm like, oh, you know that, right? I had never seen that. And Jackie, actually, we'll just do it live, right? I was going to ask you, you know how, and you showed me using that XHR with AutoHotkey, with IE, we can connect to the IE window and send it from that existing actual window, right?
Yeah.
And the more I was reading about it, I'm like, why can't we do the same thing with Chrome, right? Can we associate it, especially with Geek Dude's class? Can we connect it to the Chrome instance and simulate it from there? Is that going to be a possibility? Because that'd be awesome.
I'd say I'm kind of I can't answer that off the top of my head because I used quite a lot of time on learning how to act as the IE window, and you needed to go through a few hoops to actually get the privileges from Windows to be the IE window. And I'm not sure if you can do that through the socketed method that GeekDude is using for Chrome. I'm not sure if you can get high enough privileges to act as if you were the Chrome window. I just don't know if that's possible by using the debug method that they're using. I'm inclined to not think that it was possible just because it's probably a security flaw, or if you're able to act as if you were the browser window, then you might be able to do stuff that's unhealthy for the user. I'm not saying, but you might be able to, and that's probably why someone would say, no, that's not allowed.
Right. Yeah. All right. Anyway, back to our case in point. This is what Dale wrote us about the script he was working on, and a bit of he wrote in the let's actually read through it here. So the problem is that if you don't type that first character fast enough, you get a different character. For example, 09 dot. Apparently, I think that's what he's saying. Sometimes you get that instead of that. Is that what makes sense, Jackie?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's his issue, is that he's getting something that doesn't look as he had hoped.
My solution is a flag variable. So a toggle, right? A flag. Is that what he's meaning?
Oh, I didn't see where, but yeah, my solution is a flag. Yeah, or toggle. Yeah, that's correct. With the global variable that he calls INHS for in HotString. Yeah, it actually says it all there in the text. I'm seeing it now. And he is saying that he sets it to 1 when he enters a HotString, and we set it to 0 when he exits it. And we looked at the code, and we will look at the code in a moment. But the issue is that he is doing it in the wrong routine, so to speak. Then in the press and hold section, I check whether the flag is set or not, trying to use it to control that part of the program. But I think he has flipped it a bit on the head, so to speak. He's trying to set the value of a global variables within the part of the code that's perhaps not working correctly.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the code, right?
Yeah.
You want to walk through it like you've done in our other scripts, Jackie, and just
yeah. Do I have some kind of control, or are you just gonna control the screen?
No, obviously it's a lot easier to pass your control than I can sit here and do nothing. Well, did you see Galaxy Quest? It's like a Sigourney Weaver, where all she does is repeat like what the computer says, and it's like, I got one job, but damn it, I'm gonna do it.
I've seen Galaxy Quest a long time ago, I'd say, but so I don't remember her doing that. Does Sigourney Weaver only do that?
That's all she does is repeat what the computer says.
Nice. Anyway. It sounds as if it's a joke on the old Star Trek, right? Where Ensign, whatever she was called, almost always just read from the screen. Yeah. Problems. Oh, sorry, I changed the code. Set defaults. Hopefully this is self-explanatory within reason. What's your take on that, Joe? It's set to global. I'm kind of unsure if that's just, it's okay. He's actually using a function, setting defaults within a function. To me, I'm not seeing that function being used. So
that's interesting, right?
Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, he doesn't call it. He creates a function.
Yeah. The stuff in here doesn't seem to have any kind of usefulness currently. But yeah. Okay, so let's say it starts here on line 12. With the global variable in HS, and he sets to false. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had a question. And I totally agree with you. Line 1 is a function that isn't called, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that line 10, that directive, doesn't actually take hold?
It shouldn't.
Okay. I didn't think it would, but I figured if he would have figured that out. So anyway, I was just curious.
I haven't read up on it currently, and what it sometimes says in the documentation is if this is anywhere in the script,
right,
that will be set. as the starting point. But to me, looking at this, I don't think those parts of it are actually being used.
Here.
Oh, yeah, the message box wouldn't come up. That would
I just
be
ran it. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And he already has down here on line 14 and
and there's the
15 and
signal.
16.
So right.
Yeah. This would be one way of easily setting all of that, and then those here might be redundant, but okay, well, fair enough. It's just
and what he might, and who knows if he just packed this up and that's why it's here, right? But like in mine, I have my include defaults, and then that stuff is in a different file.
Yeah.
And anyway,
this was something that we just got on an email, right?
That's right. Yeah.
He might have tried and picked and choose something working for us, so he might not have.
Dale's here.
Dale is here.
Yeah.
He had trouble connecting. Okay, fair enough. Hi, Dale.
Hello.
Good.
Sorry about that.
No worries. We're glad you're here.
Yeah. So what questions could I answer instead of speculating?
We were just starting out here, so
okay.
and none of us had really read your script deeply, so to speak. We've both just skimmed it and thought, hey, we can talk about that. But here on line 1 to 12 or line 1 to 11, it seems that this set defaults function here, it isn't really called in this version of your script. I'm not sure if you call it in where you normally have it.
Yeah, I took my normal script and I chopped it way down to remove everything else I had in it. So
yeah, it makes good sense, and we thought as much. So
you could delete it if you like.
Let's just go ahead and do that, Jackie, just so we keep it clear right away.
With that. Yep. Fair enough. And then there's, of course, the global variable. You said it here. You have your directives here, or presets, or whatever you'd call those.
Mm-hmm.
And your variable with the characters that you want to have hotkeys for. Those are there.
Yeah.
Alphabet, as you've called it.
Yeah, you see at the end there, it says press and hold. That's like the beginning of it. And you get down a ways, you see press and hold the end of it.
I'm guessing, I'm just looking at the code, right? So this is the variable that holds whatever you are looping over here. Mm-hmm. You're looping and phasing all of the contents of this. One item at a time, you're creating a hotkey for it. That hotkey, you're using the function key event. So each time one of these hotkeys are pressed, A or B or F or comma or whatever, then it goes into this function key event.
Right.
That's what you're doing here.
Well, another disclaimer, I didn't write this, I borrowed it.
I've seen it before, so it makes good sense.
Okay.
Here is a delay. This delay, of course, has to do with how long you want to press the key before you want it to act.
That's right.
So here the delay is set to 375 milliseconds, which is fine. Just looking here, wait this time in milliseconds to cap letter. Okay, so that's what it's used for. Fair enough. Low number, be smaller wait. Fair enough. Capped. Oh, that it just starts off default as the value or the variable capped is false, and I collapsed something.
Right.
Fair enough. Here's something commented out. Fair enough. The key is then. Oh, really? This hotkey. Fair enough. So the hotkey that called this function would be holding this variable here. We're taking the substring. The second, that's because we're removing this from the hotkey. So
yes.
So if here we'd get, like, say I press an A, right? The thing passed in would be, oh, fair enough. I'm just trying to maneuver this. Would look like that. So this hotkey would have this value if I pressed an A. And this substring here is, of course, used to remove. I'm not doing that, but again, removing that. So now we only have the A left. So key now holds A. I'm not sure. Oh, it's saying the same thing in comments. Fair enough. For everybody who's following along, I'm lucky enough to probably have said the right thing. So while the A key has the state P or pressed, do whatever is in here. So if the value is not capped, and currently it isn't because it's default to false, and a tick count, this one up here, is lower than delay. So a tick count is how long has the CPU been counting since you started your computer, plus 375 milliseconds. And it's counting in milliseconds, so all it's really doing is giving you a really big number, currently number, plus that. Down here you're checking is, did we get here before then? And then you're checking the global variable that you did.
Yes.
Is that correct? So if not, so if this value is set to false, so if you're not in a hot string,
right,
then the 3 lines in here happen.
Whoa.
Did I click something or?
Oh,
something?
you know what? You can close that. I have another script running. We're doing skip tracing, and I have it running on 2 different computers here. And after X numbers, it has to, you have to fill out a CAPTCHA. So it runs in the background. When it pops up, I have to solve it, but I can do that later.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Here you have the send input where you're deleting whichever key you pressed. You're pressing shift down, and then you're sending the capitalized version of it, or just the key, of course, but it will be capitalized.
The shifted value. It works with the numbers as well and things.
Okay, it makes good sense. And then apparently you're making that hotkey invalid. What are you doing here? So you wouldn't be able to do it with the same twice. Oh, okay. So you're making it not auto repeat, so to speak.
Yep.
Okay, and then you're setting the cap to true. That's kind of to tell you that you did it. Cap set to true, so script doesn't repeat. Okay, fair enough. So you're doing that, making this no longer the correct thing. Fair enough. If capped, hotkey is set to on. Okay, so you're just reassigning the hotkey down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the A is again. So here it removes the A. So it's actually a multiple ways of trying to have it not repeat a key.
Yep.
Fair enough. Okay. So, and here we're resetting it to how it was before. Fair enough. That's that part. And then I see you have that here. And then you have tried to combine it with a HotString script, right? Part. What yeah.
Well, that top part runs all the time, and then these are some hot strings that it seems to be conflicting with.
Yeah, and because this is running all the time, before I read into the hot strings, this will act before the hot string is done.
Oh, before.
So while you're typing whatever the hot string needs, both of these things, so AutoHotkey is listening, is this a hot string that he's typing? Does this end up matching what is in here? And while that is happening, each time you're pressing a key, this one loops over. So it's going in here over and over each time you press one of these things, right?
Yeah.
So the issue is that because your first setting in HotStream, that might be one of the issues at least. Down here, it's only when your HotStream is actually done that you change your value. So yeah, and because you up here have not in a HotStream, so okay, so that's the 0 down here. So when your HotString has done what it needs to do, then this, yeah, okay, fair enough. That should work. But yeah, the problem is that you're typing the hotkey before you're setting the stuff. So this up here is actually happening while you're typing the key, and that's probably messing with your shifts.
Yes.
Because at one point it's able to get in here and probably changing the state of shift before whatever you're typing as your input here. And Joe, where did you have the other that's probably what's giving you that issue there. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it works if you type fast, like before that 375 millisecond timeout.
Yeah. So if you make sure that it doesn't get to this part, so as long as this here, okay. So, and I don't see any way of getting around that. That's just because the keys that you're typing up here ain't at no point held down for longer than 400 milliseconds. And 400 milliseconds is quite fast. Not because it's ultra fast, but I think a full blink of the eye takes about 400 milliseconds. So yeah, you need to type at a certain speed to get around that. What you could probably do, and that's probably one of the things I'm not sure if you want to do, is you could use a directive for your HotStrings instead and press something that would then let you use the HotStrings. And so actually halting this from working while you're typing a HotString. Would that make sense to you? Would that make it unusable?
I'm willing to try anything.
That's why we like you, Dale.
That's why we like you, Dale.
I've wrestled with this quite a while, and I said, well, you were looking for topics, I'd throw it out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but you're probably typing whatever, right? Whatever you might be typing, and you're hoping that if you hold the key long enough, it would turn into a capitalized D, correct?
Well, if you get down to like lines 44, 45, like shift, I don't think it records shift down, but like the input, isn't like the input line like waiting for a key? So what
Yeah, you're talking about these?
Yeah.
So what you're doing within your HotString, so you're very, what's the way of saying that? You're doing this consciously. That's perhaps not. I want to do this currently. You're not just hoping for it to auto expand something for you. You're actually taking a specific action to have this happen, right? You're not just within whatever you're writing. That's probably why you have that capitalization. You just want to have it easy to capitalize for you automatically.
Yeah, well, that first one, it puts a parenthesis with 3 spaces between them. It puts the cursor in the middle space, and it's going to capitalize your first keystroke.
That's this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm getting what the HotStrings do, but I'm asking the reason for you to have all of these up here, where you want it to capitalize, right? That's what this one up here is doing. it's shifting the key.
Yes.
Yeah. And for the most part, that would be you holding down a key for a long time to get the capitalized version of that key, right?
Right.
Yeah. And to me, down here, you're doing something very different from that. You're thinking, now I want to do C99 dot or whatever, correct?
Well, I chose 99 because 9 is under the left parenthesis. So instead of having to hit shift and parenthesis, what helps me is I'm missing a couple of fingers on my right hand, so it's hard to hit the shift key. And so if I could just press and hold the letter 9, it gives me a left parenthesis. If I press and hold the letter 0, I get a right parenthesis.
I actually thought I ran it there. Is it running on your computer now, Joe?
Let me take a look. Even then, though, Studio, I would say.
Yeah, it's doing it differently.
Yeah. Here, let's. Whoops.
Looks like it is.
Hit the wrong. There you go. So hold down 9, right?
Yeah. But maybe the way I'm creating inputs is wrong, Joe. Can you try it?
There it goes.
Yeah. It's because I'm doing it through Zoom.
Yep.
So the way that it's created is different. So that's what you're hoping from holding 9 as an example.
Yes.
What you're probably also hoping is 999 dot. Or that actually worked. So the HotStream worked when I just did it or typed it fastly enough. Did it not? Or how would you describe a normal use case for this, Dale?
If you type, what did I have? Dot C99.
Yeah, that's one at least. Dot C99
Space.
or whatever you had. The one I just used was C99 dot.
Okay.
And then I could type.
Yeah. So it should be for the C is capitalized, so it should I wanted to capitalize that first keystroke.
And it's not doing that. And
it's usually doing a different character.
Yeah, but here it didn't actually capitalize it as we had thought it should. Where was the... I can't navigate around on your Windows.
You're trying to go back to Studio?
This is on mine, so yeah, I was. So this one, the stuff you're hoping for, it makes the parentheses that worked when I just did it. Mm-hmm. It's moving the cursor back to, because you have a space there, so back to into the parentheses. Then you're holding shift down.
Right.
And then you want to do, or you want to catch some kind of input, correct?
Yes.
And here, what the V? What's that? I don't remember. The large V.
I don't either.
Okay, fair enough. So the L1 and the large V are different options. Can I do this? Yeah, I could try at least. Something happened. Did that open on my end, or are you seeing the help file?
V is visible.
Fair enough. V is visible, so it's keeping the input visible.
Yeah.
You don't see it, Joe. Interesting.
Being sarcastic, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I actually believed you. So, yeah. What I wanted is I wanted to look for input here.
Yeah, it's funny is I don't even know what is the...
The input command is just a way to listen for input, to kind of have the user.
I never use that.
Input. So length is input length. Okay, fair enough. I didn't remember that. So you're looking for a single keystroke,
mm-hmm.
and V is for visible. Should we look at what that meant? Or is it that just that it will let you see that it will actually pass through?
The help file says normally the user's input is blocked, hidden from the system. Use this option to have the user's keystroke sent to the active window.
Okay, so it's actually letting you record what's being input and still letting actually get through to the window, so you will see that you're inputting it. Fair enough. And stuff that you want to have happen is, to me here, I'm still uncertain of what you want this to do. What do we want this input part here to do, Dale?
Well, it's just going to echo back what's typed, but it'll be the capitalized version of it. 44 holds down the shift, 45 gets it, sends out the shifted version, and then 46 releases the shift.
Yeah, you don't want the want the input to actually hide and do it on the background, so that if you want to affect it by capitalizing it or leaving it lowercase, then AutoHotkey will know that the letter you pressed, it'll grab that letter and then affect it however you want it affected, and then output it the way you want it. Because leaving it visible like that means that it'll pass it through to your editor, whichever editor you're using, and that's probably not the result you want. Because like if you're wanting to do, press an H, but you want it capitalized first, you want it to grab that input so it doesn't get to your editor of choice, and then affect it before it then sends input to it.
Interesting.
I'm just
we have it now is it'll put it in there, and then it looks like it's going to give you a duplicate, which is not what you're looking for. You want AutoHotkey to swallow that key press, and it'll know exactly what that key is.
Yep.
So you don't want to send it back out yet.
No. You want complete control over what that one keystroke is going to do.
Manipulate it before you send it back out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 46 should be commented out for now until you manipulate it and change it.
Well, he's got shift down on line 44, but I mean, that's all well and good. You're wanting C99 to capitalize your next input key, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you want, I personally, I would try doing plus before %key%, and not even worrying about the send input shift down and shift up, to see if that would actually, because plus being shift, I would say in wrap that %key% in parentheses, or not parentheses, but curly braces.
Yeah.
And then put a plus on the outside of it. Keep the percents though.
So it's raw? Is that what that's?
Well, shift. Plus is shift.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the curly braces.
What it is it's basically, whoa, that's a pound.
Euros. That's right.
But yeah, whatever is within the curly braces basically means, make it literal. You could do like
this
left or right for a left or right arrow, up, down, so on and so forth. Or you can do like the fancy ones like browser back, browser forward, things like that. But that's how I would probably tackle that. Not sure why you're going left too.
That's to move the cursor back into the braces.
Oh, okay. And you got a space. You need that space afterwards?
Just one?
I don't think so.
So then you
like,
can just do a left 1 or a left.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, you could send input to move it back to the right to get outside of the parentheses, unless you want it to stay within the parentheses.
Well,
After
I'd
you're
want
done with everything.
to.
So you want it to capitalize, and then you want to keep writing inside the parentheses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then that should work fine. Should. Don't quote me.
Should, yeah.
I
Let's,
wrote, everything should work. And it never did.
Let's switch to.
Yeah, just go to like Notepad or something. That should be a lot better.
okay. I still have control, right, Joe? Or you're not trying to do anything. So I'll write C99 dot here, and then typing hello.
Nice.
So
Oh,
that worked. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, allowing AutoHotkey to swallow that key allows it to do whatever it wants, pre-process it before it actually sends it to the.
Yeah,
to the-
by simply sending it afterwards.
right.
Yeah. That makes good sense.
This gets grabs it first, huh?
Well, to me, and I'm thanks, Chad, for offering up the stuff. When I was watching everyone work on it, I'm like, I would prefer just to maybe it's a hot string triggering it, but the hot string triggers it. You pull up like an input box, you type in that, and then you manipulate the text from that, not trying to dynamically update the text back and forth, right? I mean, that seems very problematic. I mean, maybe it's going to be very reliable, but
Well, for his use case, this is fine. You don't have to break flow having the input box come up. It'll just pick whichever the first key is that they type or he types afterwards.
cool.
To me, I'm thinking right now, if you switch back, Joe,
Oh, sorry.
that this is actually unneeded.
Right.
That because the stuff shouldn't happen within that time frame anyway. So
No, you should be fine.
yeah, so you should be able to remove this part by having it updated like this, and simply not using that global variable there. It should still work without.
Sorry, I came in a little late, so I'm not completely.
No, that's also fine. I'm just thinking that it should actually work without that. Can you switch back to Studio or yeah, here? So if I try to type C99 dot and hello, it's working fine. So
Wait, do that again, Jackie, and then but don't type the letter H. Wait a few seconds.
okay,
But it'll sit
so
and wait for the next input. It doesn't matter how long. Because right now, AutoHotkey is just waiting for you to hit a letter.
yeah, there's no timeout on the.
You can
the
assign a
input.
timeout, I think, but you're not.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how long.
So I would love to make sure I understand it before, Jackie. So you were saying when you were making it visible, that was shoving it already into the editor right
Correct.
then. And that's where it's kind of actually what I was saying was, it's just I was using input box, is you wanted to manipulate it before you shoved it in.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
The idea was it was probably ignoring the shift down and up because you let the input command pass it as you had typed it. Wasn't, yeah. Yeah, okay, switch back, Joe. It's probably better to be
I got one thing I do.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not able to switch well from here, so I'm letting you handle that.
I got it.
Oh, not visible.
Yeah, very cool.
Does it make sense, this edited part for you, Dale? What
Yes,
we
it
did?
does.
Yeah.
I was replicating it here, and I was having trouble, but I hadn't removed the V option there, the visible.
Yeah.
So that was messing it up.
And for the record, I never would have figured any of this stuff out. Like I didn't even know there was an input command.
I used
You
to
have
use,
probably used it before, Joe. You have probably used it before.
I've used input boxes, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have probably just forgotten. You probably have something somewhere with an input.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
I'm just guessing, right? But yeah, you know.
Chad showed me like a month ago, borders, I think. Is that what it was, Chad?
Borders?
Yeah, which I had never. Remember, we updated a tool, and I think it was the our one I still haven't published yet. The grabby thing.
Oh yeah.
I think you had used the border. I forget what it's frame. Is that what it's called? But it was outlining the element or whatever. It was spotting the.
You're thinking in HTML, right?
No.
It's a GUI thing.
Yeah, what I was doing was I would create a GUI that had like basically a border of 1 pixel all the way around it, removing the caption and everything else. So it's basically just making a 1 pixel 1 pixel bordered window that you could move around.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had never even heard of them. I'm like, you did what? So sorry. It's just always cool to find new things, even if I have heard of this before. It's like new to me. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm constantly learning stuff about AutoHotkey and just programming languages in general.
Yeah.
You'll never know everything.
No,
Incidentally,
that's for sure.
Just so people, I want to brag for Chad. So he, I'd say in what, like 2 weeks, Chad, you at least got the bulk part of like developing apps in Android. And he's, of course, he's got more to learn, but he was cranking out stuff. And it was so impressive to see like how quickly he could pick it up once you start learning programming, right? And just recently he's starting it on the iPhones as well.
Nice.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Oh, that's probably different. But yeah, I don't know. We've probably heard that a good amount of times, Joe, right? That if you first learn one language well enough, the only thing you need to learn with other languages is the syntax. And of course, it's not as easy as that, but I do get the sentiment, so I do understand where they're coming from when they say it, because you learn how a thread flows. You learn all those basic parts, and you learn that any kind of thing that you put in can have meaning. It's not just something that's there. It probably means something. So like the space that was there after the parentheses was totally unneeded, and you didn't need to move the cursor left 2 times. Just you don't necessarily see it, but it's unneeded, and it was probably there at some point, and now you're working around it by moving the cursor left 2 times. And it's something very simple, but it's unneeded.
Hey, just because I'm looking at the time and we're right on spot on an hour, are we done with this script? We're not going to work through each example, right? Because they're very similar, aren't they?
I think it's the same fix for all of them.
Yeah, it's curly braces, square brackets. Similar hot strings.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take this chance to stop the recording so we don't have a crazy long one like we did last time, because I don't think I ever stopped it.
Yeah, fair enough, Joe.
Start recording it here. So stop recording.